Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Chef Rob Scott Zoom program. This is broadcasting from the Middle Country Public Library. I see we have a few attendees already in. We will start momentarily. It's 6:23. We're planning about a 6:30 start. Um, if you would like to communicate or ask any questions, please use the um, chat function on the bottom of the screen. Make sure that you set it to all panelists and attendees if you would like your question to be seen, or if you would like to chat with other attendees. Otherwise, you can specifically message attendees. That's another option you have. But all panelists and attendees is preferred. That way, others can see what kind of questions you're asking, and it kind of helps the program move along. So thank you for everybody showing up, and we will get started in a few moments. Enjoy the sunset that Chef Rob has put up for us, and we'll get started soon. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Also note that we cannot see you. So the chat function is your only way of communicating. We cannot hear you, we cannot see you. So using that chat function is the only way that you can ask a question to the chef, or chat with each other. So that's why I mention it so heavily. We cannot see or hear you. So feel free to kick back, put on your PJs, and watch Chef Rob Scott show us his cooking skills. So we'll get ready to start in about 5 minutes. Welcome, everyone. All right, we see some more people are coming through. Again, please use the chat function to communicate. We cannot see you, we cannot hear you. Chef Rob will be beginning in just a few minutes. We have a good number of attendees. Kitty, it is nice that you are attending. We miss you over at MCPL. It's good that you joined us. Margaret, how are you? It's always good to see you. Arlene, I see is in here. A lot of friendly faces. So thank you guys for joining us. Use the chat function. Make sure you set it to all panelists. Make sure you set it to all panelists and attendees. That way that everybody can see and talk to each other. That way it makes it a little more fun. You can ask questions through the chat, and we will relay them over to the chef. We will get started momentarily. Thank you guys for coming. Thank you so much. You see, Chef Rob Scott has turned on his camera and he's getting ready to go. So it is 6:31. So Chef, I'm gonna give you the reins, and you know, when you're ready to go, you're ready to go. If Elizabeth and I see questions popping up, we will try to jump in at opportune time. We won't try to interrupt you, but we'll try to get you at a good time. And
no worries.
You got the controls now, sir. It's all you. Thank you again.
Thanks, Alex. Yeah, no worry, don't worry. You can ask me questions whenever. I can get my footing right back on track. So don't worry. So hello, everybody out there in Middle Country. Thank you so much for coming tonight, watching this virtual video, and I hope you come back and watch more of them. Your library is offering so many things. Go to them every single day and just look for the new things that they're putting on for the new schedule, because it's really amazing out there what the libraries really do. And I've been going to Middle Country for probably about 6 years now. That it's unbelievable what that library offers the community. I have over 80 people coming for family programs there, and I hope to get back and doing them for the kids and the parents really soon. So one of the things I'm going to start making is I'm going to do an Asiago cheese bread. It's a very quick bread, no yeast, you know, because the yeast, some people are having trouble finding. There's a few stores I see having it, but this is baking powder. The baking powder you can pretty much get, all right? So let me start making this right now. And I will go over all the different things about the ingredients and why to use this, why not to use that, okay, for it to come out really successful for you. My son Chris is doing the filming, and he's been doing an amazing job. We've been doing Facebook, we've been doing Zoom, we've been doing YouTube. So check out all the libraries all over the place, all right? So let me start by getting some flour. I'm using the all-purpose flour. See, even at home, I use the gloves. You know me in the library, gloves. I give gloves to 80 people. So, okay, I am going to take 2 cups of the all-purpose flour. You want to always make sure you level it like that. Never just kind of go like that and give it kind of a choppy like that, because you really don't know. Do you have too much? Do you have too little there? Okay, so always nice and smooth. Okay, we're taking 2 cups of that. I have made this bread for many years. I used to make it when I was a personal chef. I was a personal chef for 14 years. And then before that, I was a head chef at a few restaurants out in Southampton. I'm going to put 1 tablespoon of the baking powder. Always want to make sure it's nice and level. The way to tell if baking powder or baking soda is any good anymore is put a little vinegar on it. If it bubbles, it means it's still active, it's still good. Okay, so let's put that in there. going to use some kosher salt. I'm using 3/4 of a teaspoon of the kosher salt in this type of bread. I like this better than the regular table salt. It's a little coarser, and you really get a nice bite of the salt in there. And salt you really need in all baked goods, because what it does, it brings out all the flavors in it. Okay, so really important. I'm putting in 1 teaspoon of sugar. Again, make sure it's nice and level. A lot of people, they want to cut down on the white sugar, which of course is a really good thing. But when you're having baked goods, make sure whatever the recipe says that you put the right amount in there, because the sugar gives it the moisture and gives it the crust in the body of the bread, the scone, the cookie. So very important to use. If you want to cut back on sugar, just cut a little smaller piece of this bread then, okay? But remember, it's only a teaspoon. It's not bad. At this point, what I want to do is take my spoon, mix all these ingredients in really well. Okay. Now I'm going to take one of the stick of the unsalted butter. I use unsalted butter in everything, especially the baking, just because the unsalted butter, you're starting with no salt in it, okay, in your recipe. Then you know exactly what to put in. If you only have salted butter at home, just reduce it by 1/4 teaspoon. The reason I say that is 1/4 teaspoon of salt is in a stick of butter. Okay, so just reduce it that way. Another thing with the butter, as I'm just grating this. It's really cold butter. This recipe calls for cold butter. Okay, so if you see it, looks kind of like a shaved mozzarella cheese going in there. If the recipe says cold, you need to have it cold. Otherwise, your product won't come out really well. If it says room temperature, take it out a few hours ahead of time and bring it to room temperature. If it says melted, you got to use the melted butter. Very important with the baking. I just want to make sure I get everything off of here. I don't want to leave any butter on here. Otherwise, my recipe won't come out right. Okay, I'm just going to mix that in there. Just going to change a glove. Okay, when you're buying butter at the supermarkets, never for baking buy the store brand. It has more water in it. It doesn't have the high fat content as a Land O'Lakes, a Breakstones, anything like that. There is one store brand that you can buy that is really excellent butter, and it's Kirkland, and that's from Costco. Any of the other store brand ones, your product won't come out the same. Okay, so just try to remember that, at least for baking. The store brand for toast, for a bagel, it's all good. Okay, what I'm doing is I'm crumbling the flour and the butter mixture here. I want to get that really good. I want to feel no really butter clumps in here. Okay, this is looking good. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some half and half. Make sure you don't use heavy cream. Make sure you don't use regular milk. The texture will be really different. If you use heavy cream, what will happen is it'll be a very heavy dough, and it won't really make it rise as well as the half and half. If you use the milk, what will happen is it will crumble and kind of fall apart. So half and half, and not the fat-free one, okay? 3/4 of a cup. Very important, make sure you measure it really good. Now, I'm looking at this, and this date on here says June 14th, okay? It's only good until June 14th if you keep this cold, ice cold all the time. If you leave it out for any period of time, that date starts really going away and getting closer to May, okay? So make sure it is very cold as soon as you can get it that way. At this point, I'm just going to pour in the half and half. I'm just going to take this spoon here I want to mix it around. I don't want to go in with my gloves because if I go in with my gloves, what is going to happen is I'm going to lose all this batter all over my gloves and you don't get as much bread then. Okay. So it's a little bit of a sticky dough. Okay. It's very heavy in weight. I'm just going to kind of pick this up, kind of let it drop. It will have almost like a biscuit type texture. Okay. So at this point, what I want to do is I want to take some flour and I want to dust my cutting board here. I'm going to give this a nice dusting. And the reason I'm doing that is I want to take this wet, sticky dough and dump it out onto the flour. Oh, didn't want to go there for a minute. Okay. Get the rest and anything that's left on that spoon, that's when you're going to have to take your gloves and just kind of get it all off. Okay, don't waste anything. Okay, perfect. Now, why I put the flour on the bottom is I'm going to lift my dough and I'm going to roll it around in the flour. This way, you can see my hands, it's just flour or pretty clean. Okay, so I'm not wasting any bread at all. I'm going to knead this for about 10 seconds. Okay, just want to make sure all the ingredients are incorporated here. Okay, very good. Now, I'm just going to kind of scoop this to the side here. I don't want it to have any floury type texture. If you look at this dough, it's like a nice pizza dough here, right? So at this point, what I want to do, I'm going to take this baking pan with a silicone baking mat. Always make sure you use like a silicone baking mat or parchment paper. That way your baked good doesn't stick to it. Okay. So if you can see how pretty high this is, okay, it's almost like the size of a softball. That's the way to describe it. I'm just going to pat it down just a little bit. Now, doesn't look like it'll be too large of a bread, but you'll be surprised how it turns out. I just want to take one egg. And a tablespoon of water. Now what I want to do is I just want to beat the egg and the water together really good. Now, one of the things about eggs, to make sure that they are fresh, put them in a little water. And if they go right to the bottom, they will be very fresh. If they start kind of dancing around a little bit in the sink, you know, almost like trying to come up a little bit, they're getting old, but they are very safe to eat. If they come to the top, get rid of them. Okay,
Hey,
so very important with the eggs.
hey,
Yeah,
Chef Rob, Karen Paoli asked, actually, I have two questions. I'm sorry.
sure.
So one is why water in the egg? And the second is how much flour? I missed the beginning.
2 cups of flour. Okay, and then the egg, it's just a little too thick to have on the bread. So just a little dot of the water, tablespoon to the egg, just loosens it up a little bit. And it's not even to give it a glossy shine. It's almost so the cheese really sticks to it. Okay, so between the water and the egg, that really works out really well. So what I'm doing here is I'm beating this really well. Now, when I've taught this at a lot of the libraries, I've done this class at some of the libraries, I always tell them lightly brush it because you don't want to go home with a loaf of Asiago cheese bread and an omelet, okay? You just want to have a little bit on there, just like that, and the cheese will stick to it, okay? So you don't see any kind of really dripping off there, which is the way I want it. Now I have a half cup of the Asiago cheese. Try to grate it yourself because if you grate it yourself, it's a lot fresher, okay? Any of the bag cheese that's already grated, there's no taste to it. Okay, very minimal if it's anything. But like a Monterey Jack cheddar cheese, there's no taste to that. It may be convenient, but you don't want to really buy it. Okay, a half cup, believe it or not, is more than plenty. So what I'm doing is I'm actually putting my hand around here because I'm trying not to lose any, but anything that goes on the tray here, I'm going to be able to grab and put right back onto it. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to get this. Okay, so it's a lot of cheese for this bread. Now what this cheese is going to do, we're going to put it into a 375 oven, and it will take about 30 minutes. Keep an eye on it yourself because everybody's height will be a little different. Some will make it a little flatter, some will make it a little higher. But this, again, remember, it was about a softball size, and then I just patted it down just a little bit, okay? The baking powder takes over and makes it a really nice loaf. Now, when I put this into the oven, what I do want to do is I want to take a sheet of aluminum foil and I want to put it on the rack above. What that will do is make sure that cheese does not burn, okay? Because the heat elements from up above could make it burn, could make it a little too crisp. At any time, if you feel you want this a little more golden brown, and it will get golden brown on its own, you just pull that foil away, okay, to finish it off. Try not to go in the oven many times because if you go in there, it keeps changing the temperature and then it might not come out as good. So try not to peek in there. Try to leave that light on where you can kind of see through. Put it towards the lower rack of the oven. And again, don't forget the aluminum foil up top. So before I go on to the next dish that I made, what I want to do is I demonstrated one a little while ago. So this is actually pretty fresh out of the oven. So I want to show you the size in comparison, okay? This is exactly how it will come out. So look at how small it starts here, and then the nice size loaf it is right here, okay? The cheese will bake right into it, so it gives it a real nice crust. When I do this at the libraries, I have some patrons ask me, can we put some of that cheese inside it? You can put a little bit. Don't put too much because it will change the texture of the bread, okay? The cheese will, every bite that you cut into, you're going to get a nice bite of Asiago cheese. It's almost like when you buy an Asiago cheese bagel, it's all coated on the outside, okay? And you get that flavor every single time. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut this and just show you the inside of it. I always suggest you eating it pretty much the same day, and there's nothing like having it right when it comes out of the oven, okay? You may get a little bit of crumbling, most of the time pretty much not so, okay? I'm going to put this to the side. I wish you were here. I'd love to give everybody a little nibble out there. Does anybody have any questions out there? Do we have any more questions before I do go on to the next thing, or any baking questions?
So far, not anything. We could
Okay.
we could wait a second. If something pops up, I'll let you know. But some Margaret Matthews asks, can you bake it an hour or so?
Can you bake it an hour? It would overcook.
I think she means like if you waited an hour to cook
Oh,
it.
if you waited to, yes, okay. I was hoping it was something like that. Okay.
My bad.
No worries. Yeah, you could give it an hour or so, but let me just show you one thing on it. What will happen is, remember, it was ice cold butter in here. The butter, and it's warm. I'm in my home. Depends where you are making this. Usually you're inside making this. It's usually warm enough, unless it's the summer and you have the AC on, but the butter is going to start oozing. So this is going to, as it sits, kind of get flatter and flatter. So before you put it in the oven, you may need to just kind of tuck it up just a little bit, because as soon as you put it in the oven will take its shape. Okay, so That'd be the thing. You could even leave it in the refrigerator for the hour. Okay. Okay, so I want to go on to this recipe here. I used to do when I was a personal chef and when I was in the restaurants. It's a roasted shrimp dish and it has a ginger scallion soy dressing. And I put it on a crostini and it's all decorated. It looks really fancy. So it's really nice for summer. I do this also at the holidays too. So this is one you can use all year long.
All right, Rob, I'm sorry. Can you make it with yeast when it gets available? And also, how much half and half and baking powder?
Okay, the baking powder, one tablespoon. I'll actually go over exactly what it was. 2 cups of the flour, and this I believe is on your website, just so you know, everybody. 2 cups of the all-purpose flour, 1
Yes.
tablespoon of baking powder, 3/4 of a teaspoon of kosher salt, 1 teaspoon of sugar, 3/4 of a cup of the half and half. And if you weren't there earlier, just make sure you use the half and half. It's very important. A 1/2 cup of the Asiago cheese, and then a tablespoon of water mixed in with 1 egg. And that's what you're going to brush right on top. But getting back to the question with the yeast, it would be a whole different recipe. I would say Google a different type of Asiago cheese that incorporates the baking powder. I'm sorry, the yeast, okay? Because the baking powder is made especially for this recipe, okay, for it to come out right. You could take this dough here and make them into little triangles and make little biscuits. And then you would cook it the same temperature, the same way, but make them about 20 to 25 minutes they would bake for.
Chef, sorry to interrupt. The recipe is on our Facebook page. I am going to post a link in the chat right now so people can get the recipes for both of the dishes that Chef Rob is cooking tonight, but they are both posted on the event for tonight's program. I will post a link in the chat as in a few moments.
Sounds great. So now what I am going to do is I'm going to make the shrimp crostini. First thing I want to do is go over about the shrimp. Okay. I roasted off a few shrimp earlier. What you want to do, the size here is they're called 16 to 20 count. That means there's 16 to 20 of this size to a pound. So whenever you see that on the bag, that's what it means. Okay. The best tasting shrimp is your size 15 to 30. So any shrimp that you see that has 15 to a pound up to the size 30 will give you the best flavor. There are different shrimp out there. There are tiger shrimp. There's shrimp from Ecuador. There's white Gulf shrimp. The white Gulf shrimp are your best tasting shrimp. It will cost you in money, but you'll get it back in flavor. Okay. With shrimp, always cook them yourself. Never go to the store and say, oh, they're already done for me. Perfect. And I'll eat them. They will just keep retaining water. And when you go to bite it to get that nice snap, you'll get a mouthful of water. Okay. Cook them the way you want to cook them, whether it's boiling them, grilling them, searing them, or roasting them. I roasted these shrimp. I brushed a little bit of extra virgin olive oil on these shrimp. I put a little bit of kosher salt and a little bit of black pepper. Okay. It took about 10 minutes to roast it. So what I do is take the shrimp halfway through and then I just flip it over like that. And then they come out really nice. A roasted shrimp is good. You can do a roasted shrimp cocktail as well. I used to eat the cocktail sauce, but whenever I have this just ginger scallion soy dressing around, I have that now first. I like it a lot better. Before I make the dressing too, I want to go over about the bread. I'm using a ciabatta bread. What I did was a little olive oil and kosher salt on this, and just kind of put it in the oven for about 10 minutes just to get a little crispiness. But everybody has a preference whether they like a little soft, a little crispy. So you cook it as long or as less as you want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut these right here. So they're ready. I'm going to make like 4 nice large ones. Okay. Almost like we're having a little party. Have some people coming over. Just going to put it on this tray right here. Okay. Okay. I'm using what's called a Ninja blender. Okay. This is a small little food processor. You actually just, this is a very sharp, dangerous blade. So once you're not using it, make sure it's right in there. Make sure this lid is on nice and tight. This thing goes for about $20 to $25. And then you just put this top right on here and you kind of tap it and you can blend whether it's salsa, whether it's dressing, whether it's ginger scallion soy dressing. Okay. So let's make the sauce for this. Okay. I'm going to put in 5 tablespoons of Hellmann's mayonnaise. I'm going to make a little bit more here. Hellmann's is probably the best. There's also another one out there. It's called Duke's. I don't know if you've ever had it. It's actually Lidl carries it. It's been around since I think the 30s. A lot of people have not heard of it, but the quality, it's a very good quality mayonnaise. But we all get into our thing where we want Heinz ketchup, we want Hellmann's mayonnaise, and we stick with it. We don't want to change, right? Okay, so 5 tablespoons of the mayonnaise. It's going to go right in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay.
Chef,
Yes.
quick question. Is there a substitute ingredient for sour cream to make non-dairy?
I've gotten the question where, what can I use instead of sour cream? And I just say, use a little more of the mayo. I've had where you can use the Greek yogurt to switch it up a little bit. Anything else that's non-dairy, if you're on like a certain restriction that you can't have the dairy, I would actually Google, something that could replace it that way. The only thing I would do is the Greek yogurt or extra mayonnaise. That's really it. Okay, so I have my 5 tablespoons in here. I'm going to put in 2 tablespoons of the sour cream. Now, you can use the regular sour cream or you can use the fat-free. I'm sorry, the reduced fat. Fat-free, you can't use. The texture, the consistency of it just really is not good. Okay. And once you make this, then you're able to kind of decide, oh, I want a little more of this, a little more of that. Okay, you could change it up. You may say, I like a stronger ginger, or I want a little more of the soy sauce. Going to put in a little bit of the fresh ground black pepper. Doing some of the easy things first so I can get them out of the way and you can see really good. About a 1/2 teaspoon of the kosher salt. Okay. The soy sauce, it's about 3 tablespoons. I'm using the regular soy sauce. There we go. The low sodium one, if you were to use the low sodium, my thinking is just buy the regular and add a little bit less. Okay, it has a nicer, stronger flavor to it. Okay. Okay, I'm going to put in some scallions. This is about 2 bunches of scallions. The scallions with the roots here, you take these little roots off and you go put them out into your really rich soil. Put them in a nice sunny spot and they will keep growing back for you. So I'm going to cut off all these roots right here. Make sure you wash them really, really well. Okay. So these little guys right here will just keep growing you back more and more scallions. I want to cut this part of the green of the scallions off because this part here, it's they're very tough. Okay, so you really don't want to use that. So I'm just gonna. Yes,
Chef, I'm sorry to interrupt.
that's all right.
Can you use tamari instead of soy? I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right.
Tamari, yes.
Tamari instead of-
You can. It will just give it a whole different taste, though. It'll give you a different taste. Okay. But you can, this everybody has different tastes. So like I give you the ideas here. You could say, I don't like the soy. I want to use the tamari. You can change it around like that to your taste. I have done this recipe where you can add water chestnuts to this because if you add a little bit of water chestnuts to this, it'll give it a little crunch. So it's all in the different, what everybody does want.
Yeah, what everybody does want. I guess for the gluten-free people, maybe tamari would be the choice, right?
Absolutely. Yep. If it's for somebody out there that is gluten-free, yes. And you have to do what you have to do. I'm going to cut these scallions here. I'm going to put these all in this blender right here. Okay. Now, I just have some ginger to cut up. This is some really beautiful ginger. Try to get real nice big pieces like this because you really, if it's really small and you're working with a little corner just like this, it's really hard peeling it, really working with it. And when you're in the store, just tear off what piece you want, okay? Because the store, they don't really care. Actually, at this time of the year, what we're going through, try to just take the piece you want and put it in your bag just because of health reasons. But typically, for all the other years, everybody just broke off the piece they wanted because you don't want to buy too much of it. So I am just going to peel this ginger here. I've had the question before where can you use it with the peel on? Absolutely, you can. Just give it a really good scrubbing, okay? If you have extra ginger, you can always zest it and put it into an ice cube tray. And then you'll have some fresh ginger for whenever you do need it. Okay, so I am just gonna zest this up right now. I'm using what's called a microplane. This here, it's got a little rubber stopper on here. This is so you don't slip, okay? A lot of them don't have this, but this one here, as I'm grating, it's not going anywhere. A lot of them will just keep going like this, okay? So this really works well. So if you find them, it's really worth it. Now, a lot of times ginger will stick to the back of the microplane, and that is all right. But what you're gonna have to do is just take your finger. I have about 2 teaspoons worth here, and just kind of get it off. Just drop it right in here, this dressing. All right. Sometimes you'll have to soak this in a little warm water for a little while to get it all off. Sometimes it goes through the dishwasher twice. Okay, so it's fine. Just going to put this cover on here. And now I just want to pulse this. Just this time. Everything kind of goes to the bottom. Okay, so this is our sauce. Just gonna put this right here. I always want to take that blade and put it way out of the way so nobody touches it. Okay. I want to show you the consistency of the sauce. Okay, it's almost like very herby. Okay, but it has so much flavor going through it. I'm going to leave this right here. Now I want to show you how I decorate these and make these really, really fancy. Okay. Remember, I have my toast right here from my ciabatta bread. I have my roasted shrimp right here. And I have my ginger scallion soy dressing. So when I use this, I always make sure I put a good amount on there because everybody loves this sauce. This is really good the day after Thanksgiving with a turkey sandwich. It's so, so good. And we usually have it because we usually do the shrimp cocktail here and we usually make extra. So the next day when I do have a turkey sandwich, I put it right on. Okay, so you can see I'm being very generous with it. I'm that way when I'm at the library too. So you folks that have been there, you know I give you a lot of food, right? Okay. What I want to do is, if I was to take this shrimp and put it on here, it's too big of a shrimp. So what I want to do is I always take the tails off because I always think of the patron, the customer, my guest. And I'm just going to take the shrimp, put them over here, and I'm going to show you how to serve these and make it really good for easy eating. Now, okay, so if you could see, I'm just taking the shrimp right down the center, and I'm taking the knife and just cutting it right in half. All right, I'm going to do that to at least 4 of these shrimp. It will be easier to eat since they are split in half. Remember, this is like an appetizer. Appetizer is supposed to be one or two bites at the most. Okay, so I'm going to leave these right here. Put these shrimp over here. I'm going to put 1 shrimp on each baguette. 1/2, I should say. Okay, just like that. Now let's just say you want to be cheap when you're having a guest over. If you went like that and put it right over there, nobody is going to say, hey, did you notice they cut the shrimp in half? It's an appetizer, so it could be meant to be that way, okay? I am just going to put a little bit of spinach leaf on it. Normally, I would use watercress, but there was no watercress at the market right now. We're lucky what we get at the market. So I'm just using some spinach just for a little taste and a little nice, pretty look, okay? Okay, just like that. Now, I always like color in my dishes, okay? Especially spring and summer, you really want to bring out those colors. So I'm using some radishes, okay? Just scrub these radishes really well. I'm just gonna cut these into little rounds. I'm cutting it very thin because radishes have a strong flavor to them. It's not for everybody, but I would make them for my guests, everybody with a radish on it, because they can always take it right off. You see how pretty that's looking? So if you didn't put any more shrimp on there, your guests would be just fine. But the way I kind of finish it off is just like this. Put it around like that. And there. So it goes, that would be, if the recipe you have is for about 20 appetizers, okay? So a really good amount. So as you see, I have a lot of dressing still left here, but I did that on purpose, okay? Like I said, like it on sandwiches. I'm gonna make some shrimp, dip it in there. It's really, really good, okay? Do we have any questions out there? I just wanna clear this out of the way a little bit. Anybody
No questions right now, unless anybody wants to type into the chat with some questions. I did have a question before. I think it was from the first dish. If you can just give me a second, let me find it.
Of course.
It was, should the cheese be at room temperature before grating? I don't know if that was for the first dish or the second. I'm sorry,
No,
Lisa.
that's fine.
I apologize.
It's the first dish. It's the Asiago cheese bread, and no, you want the cheese cold before grating, because the softer it gets, the harder it is to grate. It'll kind of mush, and it will kind of really stick to the grate. Okay, so you really want it cold. If you ever take a mozzarella cheese, let's say the Palio ones, and you had it out for a little bit, it's going to be very soft and it's going to be hard to grate. A good idea is actually just put it in the freezer for about 20 minutes before you're about to grate it. You're not freezing it. You're just getting it very cold, and it's easier to shave and really get those nice fresh peels of it. Okay. Now I have something else that I wanted to show everybody. I do children's programs. I do adults. I do the teen programs. And this summer in the libraries, I was supposed to do a nice, refreshing dessert. Okay, so I'm not going to be able to do that one, but I wanted to pass this along because all of these things you will be able to get at the market. Okay, and this will be really good, especially if you're having company and you do this bread and you do this shrimp appetizer. Okay, I'm just going to take all these different things apart here. A lot of different seasonal flavors going on. Okay. So what I have in here, a flour tortilla. So what I'm going to do with this, I'm going to make 3 of them. This is called a strawberry, and it's usually a peach, but the peaches aren't really good right now. So I'm using mango instead, and it's sushi. So it's like a fruit and vegetable sushi.
Rob, I have
Now,
a question. I'm sorry to interrupt you again.
That's
Chef.
right. That's all right.
A question from Margaret on the ciabatta bread, olive oil, and what else?
A little bit of kosher salt. Put it in a 350 to 375 oven for about 10 minutes at the most. If you like it very crispy, just leave it in there maybe towards 15. If you like a little softness to your bread, maybe 7-8 minutes in there. Okay. Okay, what I want to do, the first thing I'm going to do is I have the tortilla cut. I'm just going to peel this mango. I like to peel the mangoes. The mangoes right now, they have this bright red, and there's usually like a little orangey on it. At this time of the year, that's what you should be looking for. In March, you should look for dark green. They come from Guatemala and Peru, and they are some of the best mangoes you can buy. And those are the dark green ones that are in March to early April. Okay, but the ones now have a little blush to it. You want the mango to have where your thumb can go in just a little bit to know that it's ripe enough. Okay, I have a very sharp paring knife, so that's why I kind of do it this way. Sometimes it's habit on the way you've learned how to do it.
Chef, while you peel that, Elise has a question. First of all, she said, "This is great," and she said, "For the shrimp, do you have any suggestions for a vegetable to use in place of bread?"
A vegetable use it. I would say one of the English cucumbers. Okay, if you could find one a little bit on the thicker side, okay, and you can almost just put one of the shrimp on there because you're low on room. Okay, and then put the shrimp on there, put the sauce on there, and a little of the radish and spinach. Did I answer the question correctly? Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds
Okay.
good to me. She hasn't responded yet, but I think that sounds great personally. She said
it has
sounds
some
good.
nice
She said sounds.
Okay. Yep.
Sounds good. Sounds great.
If you only have, this is a pretty thin one here, you could always cut it the long way and make it almost like it's a little cracker. Okay, and do it that way and make them for your guests like that. What I'm
That's a
going to
great
do,
tip.
I'm just going to go back. I want to start cutting the mango. The peaches, I would say, are your real answer for this. It makes it really, really easier to work with. But again, we're shopping with what we can get out there now, and the peaches just are not ready. So what I'm doing is I'm just cutting a nice thick slice of this mango. It's not too soft, so I'm not gonna, it's not gonna be mushy. If you could see, got my knife, cutting it in nice thin strips. Okay, I'm gonna hold this up. I can fan it just like that. So what I'm doing is I'm getting all my ingredients together, leaving the mango right here. I have my tortilla right over here. I'm using the English cucumber. The English cucumber holds up really well. So I'm just cutting the little top off. And then what I'm doing is I'm cutting this into little thin strips, just like this. Okay, and now almost like little matchsticks. Okay, so I am going to leave these all on the side now. There's nothing like being prepared and being ready and ready to put it out for your guests when they come over. I'm using again some spinach leaves that I'm just going to leave right here. And I have some strawberries. Wash those strawberries really, really well. I'm cutting the stem off. And then I'm just going to cut it into kind of little bite-sized pieces. Okay, just like that. Okay, so I'm going to break them down. So I have my mango, my spinach, my strawberries, my cucumbers, and my soft tortillas. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little softened cream cheese. I took this out right before we started, bring it to room temperature. It's funny, when I do this for the teens or the kids, they're all like, oh, my mom made me come to this class. But then after they tried it, they go home and the parents will tell me they want to make this every year. And they really like it. They don't always listen to mom and dad, but they'll listen to, whoever's teaching you at the library or. Okay, see the cream cheese on there? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my cucumber matchsticks, just like that. I want them to be sticking out. My cream cheese acts as the flavor and acts also as the glue. Okay. Going to put a little piece of the spinach leaf in here so it's hanging out. Okay, just like that. Now a piece of the mango. Actually, this mango may just work even just as good as the peach. Okay, put that right in there. And one just like that. Now there's no real recipe for this. It's really just like show you how to do this. Okay, so it's easy enough if you're writing this down, putting it in your phone. And now a piece of strawberry. Okay, I always want it kind of hanging out a little bit like the sushi, and this way you really get to see those beautiful colors. Now, one of the keys to this is wrap it really tight, but you got to be careful because otherwise it will all pop out on you. See it pop out? But now all I do is I take this mango from the bottom, push it up, and then put this strawberry back in just like that. And I leave it hanging off the edge of the plate. Always leave the flat part on the bottom. Okay. I'm going to do this 2 more times. The strawberries love to just pop out, but they're very easily fixed. Again, you can even take a little cream cheese, put it right there, and that will just seal it. That. And the last one I'm wrapping. Oh, I kept the strawberry in. Unbelievable. Practice makes perfect, right? Okay, so that is, I'm going to move this over a little bit so you can really see what it looks like. Okay, it's beautiful colors. Now, I always think it's a little, it has beautiful colors here, but I always say, oh, the plate needs a little something. You can take a little bit of fresh raspberries and a little bit of sugar and put it in a blender and then just put it into a squeeze bottle. And then all you can have to do is kind of do a little design on your plate. Just like that. Now, I just added $5 at the restaurant for that, right? Now, if you wanted a little flavoring on here, just need a little bit because you want it to be easy to pick up. Okay, just like that. When I do it for the kids at the library, you know, the girls, I'd make a little heart on there or something like that, and they really get a kick out of it. Sometimes I'll write their name on the plate, and then make a whole platter of these ready to take home. So
Chef
this is
Rob,
the way it works.
sorry, Chef
Yes.
Rob, in that
Yep.
in that bottle, you said it was just the raspberries?
Fresh raspberries and a little bit of sugar, and you put it in a blender, and you can add actually a little bit of honey, and it gives it a nice glaze, and just keep it in the refrigerator for a couple days, and ready for something like this, ready to go on ice cream, ready to go over some pound cake with some whipped cream and some strawberries. I know I'm getting everybody hungry out there. What I want to do is I just want to take the 3 dishes and kind of put them all together for everybody so everybody can kind of
Yeah.
see. So that's our dessert.
Thank you.
This here is our appetizer. I want to get rid of these crumbs here.
Very
And
nice
here's our
plate.
Asiago cheese bread. Thank you so much. Thank you. I always learned years ago with the restaurant and being a personal chef that having the plate look really pretty, really nice, and putting a lot of effort and being organized really pays off to make sure that you have a good night. It pays off when I was in the restaurant business and I had 400 people coming through the door every single night in the summertime. It paid off when I was the personal chef and I knew they were having a lot of company over to have all my ingredients ready. And now it pays off when I go to all the different libraries and now virtually have everything laid out, ready to go and really organized. It makes my night go nice and easy, no stress, stress-free, makes it enjoyable for everybody out there that you can learn, can answer the questions all along the way. And I absolutely love doing this. I certainly hope to be in those doors of the libraries again. Only time will tell, and I hope everybody keeps still safe distancing and using those masks. Again, everybody go to your library website as often as possible because every single day they're putting up new things, and I get emails every day from libraries as far as can you do this program, can you do that one, and I have a tremendous amount out there. I always tell everybody on the last class that I'm doing my next one. So if anybody wants to see another class that I'm doing one this Thursday night at Hop Hog, and it's on Facebook. And it is a grilled sweet sausage with a caprese relish. And then I am also doing grilled zucchini rolls, and it's stuffed with roasted red peppers, goat cheese, and spinach. And then it has a mustard basil drizzle on it. Really tasty. So, and then Friday night, I'm in Bayport Blue Point. I have a 6:30 there, and that's Facebook, and I'm doing a panzanella Italian bread salad. I have many going forward, and I can't wait to come back and do something with Middle Country again. You guys are always great. I walk in the doors at Middle Country, and your staff has everything set up for me. It's really tremendous. It's really nice. You're a busy library. I know you are. And all I hear is good things about Middle Country Library.
Yes.
It's true. Every time I do a
I-
class like this, always have something that I have to say about each library. Not that I have to say, but that I want to say, because there's certain things that really stick out about each library. And I get such a warm welcome when I go there. And for a big library, usually, oh, it's just another guy coming, another guy, but it's really, really nice. And I appreciate it. And I appreciate Alex had reached out to me about doing this program. And I remember we did a pierogi class there. Boy,
Yes,
we had to fight the
absolutely.
crowd, and boy, that was fun. That was one of my most fun programs doing the pierogies. Maybe we'll bring it back again.
Yeah, we probably should. That was some of my staff members, my colleagues
Yes.
were were in that class and they enjoyed it heavily. That's actually how it got started, because one of my colleagues had said, you know, I want a pierogi class. Who can do pierogies? And you were the guy. You were the guy. So thank you for doing that. And I just want to share a couple comments with you from the chat here. Everybody saying that was great. Thank you, Chef Rob.
Thank you.
Sorry, I gotta unmute myself. It's hard.
That's
Thank
okay.
you. Nice, informative presentation. Thanks. That looks great. Thank you. This was excellent. I wish we could taste it. Beautiful
I wish you
presentation.
could too. I can't eat all these.
Beautiful presentation, Chef Rob. Looks delicious and pretty. So nothing but good feedback from everyone who was here tonight, and we sincerely thank you for doing this and being with us here tonight. You did a great job, and it
Thanks
was
so much.
wonderful. Thank you, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Middle Country. Thanks so much. And I look forward to seeing you again. And have a good night,
Yes,
everybody.
absolutely.
Stay safe.
Yes, you too. We'll talk soon.
Sounds great. Thank you. Good night.
Good night.